Welcome back everybody, thanks for clicking on the video. And today we're going to go through worn plastics and how to restore them to close to new condition with realistic results. As you can see here, this is the end result of the plastic, and I'm going to take you through the step-by-step process that I took to get to this point. As you can see, the tools are very basic and anyone can do this for cheap. So stick around and see the step-by-step of the impact they all had. There are 5 stages in total, so let's get started. Stage 1, and this one's optional. This depends on how worn your plastics are. As you can see on this KLR 250, this thing is close to 40 years old, and I'd expect that it's been outside for the last 10 years. The reason why I'm grinding this off is because this plastic's beyond repair. As you can see, it's sun-dried, it's been weathered heavily, and it just doesn't look good. So instead of sanding it heavily, I found that the razor blade was the best option for this step. Now, it's important to note that, as you see, I'm not actually going in the grooves, I'm just doing long strokes on the flat surfaces. And the reason for this is because if it goes in on an angle and it touches the side, it's actually going to scratch it. So what you'll see here is I'm using the sandpaper, a 240 grit for this one, to get into the groove, into the corner where the fender starts to go up, because I can't get the razor in there. So again, this is optional depending on how worn your fenders are, but in this step I'm using just the razor blade and the sandpaper to get in the grooves. And also, while you're at this step, you can also check for scratches, because right now a 240 grit, and maybe even the next step when we use 400 grit, this will be your opportunity to get rid of those large scratches, because once you go past the 400 grit, it won't really take it out, it'll just start to make the color appear fresher again. So keep this in mind, do a good inspection, make sure that you're inspecting for all the scratches that you can at this stage. You saw me point one out earlier, and here I'm just pointing out where I'm sanding in comparison to the grinding of the razor blade. With that said, this is what the end result of stage 1 looks like. As you can see, it's pretty similar, but we've gotten rid of that weathered plastic that we can't restore. And here's the before and after to see a clear picture of what we've done at this stage. Onto stage 2. Now, the point of this stage, as you could see from before, was that the very coarse grit sandpaper was actually starting to leave a lot of marks in the material. So this 600 is just going to start smoothing out some of those scratches on the surface. It's going to start to bring out a little bit more color, as you can see here on that that top groove. It's starting to become more green. Now you'll see that lighter discoloration. This is natural in a lot of bikes that have had an accident and the plastic has stretched intensely and it's actually discolored. Now the heating in stage 3 might help with this, so stick around to see if it has an impact on that discoloration. But again, for now, we're just going to start getting rid of those major scratches. Again, identifying now that the scratches are gone, are there any grooves that we need to sand before we go on to the next step? And yeah, as you can see, the color's starting to show a little bit underneath it. And this will conclude the end of stage 2. And soon you'll see a comparison of the before and after. As you can see, minimal differences, but there's less scratches and it's really preparing for this next stage. Now stage 3, you'll see this a lot on YouTube and I've seen 100 different opinions. And what I like to do this at 600. Because I really don't see the point to doing it afterwards, because when you heat up the structure, it actually hardens. So it kind of creates a smooth surface anyway. So I don't know, I found it was more beneficial for me to do it after 600, but a lot of people will go 600 heat, 1200 heat, 1500 heat, but I found like one time only was enough for this job, and I didn't really see any more benefit outside of doing a heating once. But again, that's my opinion. But what you want to do is hover over it, keep about like a 5 to 10 centimeter gap, and then once you see that plastic start to get a little bit shiny, that's when it started to heat, and then you want to kind of move it along. It'll take a bit of practice to get this, but you don't want to get too close because then you just burn the plastic. But you kind of want to start pushing it along the fender, and this will bring the color back, as you'll see very shortly. As you can see, this made a major impact. So the theory behind this is that it actually re-excites the molecules in the plastic and it kind of brings that natural shine back. I don't know if that's true or not, but it looks like it to me. Now here we're going to start wet sanding. The reason why we're using the same grit is because the water actually acts like a lubricant. It removes the dust and it makes it a little bit finer. So we'll start removing that scratch marks that have been left over, and it just does a good job of just smoothing things out. And also it saves your sandpaper because then plastic doesn't get clogged in your sandpaper and you don't have to replace it as much. So I found this step was really good to really give me a true indication of what the color is going to look like. And then from here we will just start sanding it with higher grit sandpaper until we achieve the color. But stick around, you'll see the before and after in a second. It really just helps smooth out the surface, reinforce that color, and start to remove some of that scratch marks. And just to enforce, there's 100 ways to do this, so do something that works for you. This is what worked for me, and I'm trying to use as basic tools as possible. Run around on 600, move up to 1200, and this will be the end result. Pretty similar, but that one was more about the surface texture starting to smooth out, becoming a little bit more glossy. Now I'm going to put optional here because a lot of people love to use polishing. I only had a drill on hand. I didn't have a bench wheel, which I think will be better for this. And I found no difference at all. So, and again, I think this is because I was using a drill. If you have a bench wheel or, polishing pads that work and a liquid that works, maybe you'll have a better result than me. But this is my before and after. Just using my drill with the liquid I had, I didn't see too much of a difference. So I put that as optional. That one's totally on you whether you'd like to do it or not. Now the final one is the clear coat. So firstly I'm wiping it down with acetone just to make sure there's no dirt or grime on the plastic, so then the clear coat will stick. Now this is really good to just bring out that shine and a natural protection layer from UV sunlight, which is a big deal over here in Australia, and also just dirt and scratches and a natural protection barrier for the fender. This is the clear coat I got. It's cheaper than 2K. Personally, I think 2K looks a lot nicer, but this one was half the price, so I kind of just went with it. First things first, nice light coat, evenly distributed, about 10 to 15 centimeters away, long even strokes, both vertically and horizontally is how I approach this one. And then after you do your first coat, you want to wait till it's touch dry to then reapply the second coat, and then you just start making it a little bit heavier and heavier. On this job specifically, I did 3 coats, and it took about an hour between each coat because it was quite cold on the day and rainy. Maybe the humidity had an effect on that. But I clear coated all my fenders, which I've used this exact process for each of them, with the exception of the white side panels. They've been painted, which I'll make a video on later. But this is that third coat. I'm starting to put a lot more on it, and you'll start to see the shine difference very shortly. So this is probably the biggest difference. You can see that shine, and it's locked in that color. And this is the end result of the clear coat. So highly recommend finishing with a clear coat. It really just makes the color pop and look amazing. And if you're interested, I'm actually restoring this whole KLR from top to bottom. This is the progress where I'm at right now, and I'm going to post a full restoration video once I'm completed. So if you want to see that journey fully, along with other tips and tricks that I'm finding along the way, subscribe, like, share, and hopefully see you around in the next video.